So UFC 283 Teixeira versus Hill is coming up this weekend, and I cannot wait for the card. It's going to be so exciting, man. Pay-per-view, 15 fights. Because there's 15 fights, this is going to be a very, very long video. I will warn you now. But I'm really looking forward to the card. As always, this is my early predictions. In 48 hours, I'll give my full card breakdown, which will probably be even longer. It's going to be a long video, 15 fights. I love 15 fight cards, man. 3 fight early, 5 fight early prelims, 5 fight prelims, 5 fight main card. Perfect. Exactly what we want. But yeah, before we get into it though, I do want to talk about my BetUS affiliate link. You can get a 125% sign up bonus, which I think is pretty good. Like if you deposit $100, you've got $225 to play with on UFC 283 or whatever it is that you are willing to bet on. So that's a pretty good deal. Same goes for $50. Same goes for like $200, $300, $500, whatever you want to do. You get a 125% bonus on that, which is a lot in my opinion. But yeah, let's just get into it. I don't want to waste too much time on that. Gregory Rodriguez versus Bruno Ferreira. I'm really looking forward to this fight. It's going to be a banger. I do think Gregory Rodriguez wins. I don't think Gregory Rodriguez should be a minus 325 favorite that he is, which is crazy. But Bruno Ferreira has taken this fight on very short notice. But with his style, he doesn't really have a style that he needs to take fights on a long full camp. He's kind of got a run forward brawler style. He's got 6 KOs, 3 submissions, I believe. He's never been to decision. I don't think he's even seen the third round. He knocked out his Dana White's Contender Series opponent in 90 seconds. Gregory Rodriguez as well. I think it's the much more technical fighter. I think he's the better fighter. I think it's somewhat similar in a very weird way to the Javid Basharat versus Matias Mendonca fight, where Gregory Rodriguez is the better fighter, but Bruno Ferreira is more dangerous. I think that's a pretty fair comparison to make. But Gregory Rodriguez, he's coming off that massive cut over his eyebrow, which I do have my questions about. You know, this was only about 4 months ago. He had this massive cut. They must have stitched it together very, very well if it's healed in time for him to make this fight. And I do worry about it opening up again. I do have a personal experience of a big scar. I've got this massive scar on my neck, goes all the way to the back of my ear. But that wasn't stitches, that was actually stapled together, which sounds disgusting, and it was. But yeah, I've had this for over a year and it has not healed up. And I do worry about Gregory Rodriguez's very wide cut that he had. I'm worried that that's not going to heal up. And maybe Bruno Ferreira could just be the guy to land some big elbows or a big shot in between his eyes and split it open again. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think Gregory Rodriguez does win. Second or third round TKO is the pick. He's about a minus 320 favorite. I think that's a little bit wide for my taste, but I do think he does get the job done. 88% of people in Tapology do agree as well. Let's jump through to the next fight. If my laptop's going to load, hopefully my camera isn't super slow. I have already recorded this video before. It was about a half an hour video, I believe, but my camera and my video screen was so slow that like you could barely see what was going on, so I got to re-record the whole thing. Thiago Moises versus Malquazel Costa. Another very short notice replacement. Malquazel Costa is from Brazil. I believe he trains in Brazil as well. According to Tapology, he does train with some sort of shoot box team, which is very cool. Does make sense with his pretty aggressive striking style. He does have many KOs. He does have many finishes. And you do see this guy in quite a few people's... trying to think with my brain. In quite a few people's corners in the UFC. I believe I saw him in Joanderson Brito's corner against Lucas Alexander. I believe was where I saw him. But Thiago Moises, borderline top 15 guy, a guy that used to be in the top 15, a guy that went 4 rounds with Islam Makhachev, which not many people did, and he did make a couple of moments in there very competitive. He's a good jiu-jitsu guy, he's a good grappler, and I think he's going to out-grapple Malquazel Costa in this matchup. We've seen Malquazel Costa out-grappled in the past. I think Thiago Moises does it and gets a submission in the first or the second round over Malquazel Costa, so let me go with Moises by submission in this matchup. I don't have odds for this fight as well. I don't believe Best Top Fight Odds has posted odds for that fight. An interesting fight here. Daniel Marcos versus Simon Oliveira. Very, very interesting fight. A little bit of a weird fight as well to break down. A tough fight to get a good read on. What you've got is you've got Daniel Marcos plus 140 and Simon Oliveira is minus 180 or so. It looks like a lot of money is coming on Simon Oliveira. At least the line has switched for him to be a favorite, and people are betting on him as well. So maybe I've got a bad read on the fight, but I'm picking Daniel Marcos, and I will say this. I didn't pick Daniel Marcos to win his Dana White's Contender Series fight because that was a 3-year layoff he was coming back from. He took 3 years off, And then he fought Brandon Lewis, which is just kind of crazy to me. And even then, the guys that he was fighting, I know they've got good records, like 8-2, 7-1, 10-5, but they just were not his level, man. They really weren't. And he fought his whole career on the Peruvian regional scene. Simon Oliveira, tricky striker, tricky grappler. He'll get the fight to the ground no matter what. He pulls guillotine all the time. He's got lots and lots of guillotines on his career. Pulled guillotine against Tony Gravely so many times, and in hindsight, losing to Tony Gravely isn't that bad of a look. Tony Gravely's a pretty good fighter. Beat Jose Aldo in Dana White's Contender Series and was beating some pretty good guys in the regional scene by submission. He's a very good submission grappler, but if Daniel Marcos can keep this fight on the feet, he should win. I do believe he's the better striker in the matchup. I do think he should outstrike Simon Oliveira, but if the fight gets to the ground, Marcos is definitely in trouble in my opinion, but I don't think it will get there. I think Marcos keeps it on the feet. This is an interesting fight. Luan Lasorda taking on Cody Stamen. And I don't know if I've got a really bad read on this fight. I initially was on Cody Stamen, but I put a little bit more time into researching Luan Lasorda. I watched quite a few of his regional fights. He hasn't been the most active guy in the world, but he has fought a couple of times recently in LFA. LFA fights are always very easy to find. They're on UFC Fight Pass. But yeah, I was watching this guy and I was impressed, and I was thinking, you know what, Luan Lasorda, I think he does have a good chance at beating Cody Stamen here. But the thing with Cody Stamen is the level of competition he's fought is very high level. I know he just bounced back against Eddie Wineland. Before that, he lost to Said Nurmagomedov. He's top 15, ranks number 15 right now. Murat Valashvili, I think, is ranked number 3 right now. Jimmy Rivera, I don't think he's still fighting. I think he's gone. But he was a high level guy, and Brian Kelleher as well. You know, he's just a veteran, crafty veteran. But I'm picking Luan Lasorda here. I do have quite a few reservations in the fight. I really do. Luan Lasorda, he's not a very good striker. From what I saw, he was getting outstruck in quite a few fights against not that great strikers. But I wouldn't really consider Cody Stamen to be a very, very good striker either. I think Cody Stamen might be able to outstrike Luan Lasorda. But the way that Cody Stamen does win his fights is that he wins by getting takedowns, you know, and I just don't think taking down Luan Lasorda, with how dangerous this guy is on the ground, is the best idea. Like, I'm watching Luan Lasorda's fights, and he's getting submissions like that. Like, he's on the ground, he's moving, he's just locking up, he's locking knee bars, he's locking up leg locks, he's throwing up submissions, he shoots for takedowns, but when he shoots for takedowns, he shoots to them very weirdly. Instead of ending up on top of his opponent, sometimes he just shoots a takedown and then pulls them on top of him so he can be in guard. Like, this guy is dangerous on the mat. I think that could be a very bad part of victory though, because Cody Stamen, if Cody Stamen can just stay on top of him for 3 rounds, he'll win. But I'm gonna kind of bank on Luan Lasorda throwing up some sort of crazy submission and beating Cody Stamen is a massive underdog. I could not believe the odds. Luan Lasorda is about plus 250 to plus 260 in this matchup, and you've got to consider as well this fight's going to be in Brazil. He's got a massive home crowd advantage. I think the Brazilian crowd could be pretty hostile as well. I like Luan Lasorda. Here's another thing I didn't even mention. Luan Lasorda has Jose Aldo in his corner. I was watching his LFA fights and I could not believe it. Jose Aldo is in this man's corner. If Jose Aldo's in his corner for his UFC debut, the crowd is going to go nuts. They're going to go insane. So, I know it's like a crowd thing, it's not a fight thing, but yeah, I think it's going to be like a little bit of a, not a moral, what am I trying to say? Like a confidence boost? That's the word I'm looking for. Wiley Alves taking on Nicholas Dalby. I'm going to give you guys my very, very honest take in this fight. I don't have a very good read on the fight. I don't. Wiley Alves hasn't fought for a year and a half. And even then, he hasn't been looking super impressive as of late. And Nicholas Dalby, you know, he's winning. He's 38 years old. He beat Claudio Silva, but he didn't look that good in that fight. Like, he's not looking that impressive to me. And I'm going to be going with Wiley Alves, but he's taken so much time off. He is 32 years old, so he's the younger guy. And I believe he is a pretty sizable underdog in this matchup as well. He's not actually very close odds. He's about plus 115 or so. Nicholas Dalby's around like minus 130-ish. I'm going with Alves. I do think he beats Dalby. I think Dalby's just not impressing me, man. He's just not looking that good, especially as of recent. But that's my reasoning. Like, that's how not confident I am in this fight. So I'm just gonna move on. And if you want to bet that fight, Don't take my advice on that one. Sorry, I personally just have a bad read on it, and I hope that other people, when they upload their videos, they say that they've got a bad read too, because then I'm not going to feel like an idiot. Jailton Almeida versus Shamil Durakimov. You've got to go Jailton Almeida, but at minus 1,000 odds, is it really worth it? And Jailton Almeida as well. Like, is he gonna commit to heavyweight? Like, what's he really up to? You know, like, is he gonna fight at light heavyweight? Is he gonna fight at heavyweight? I think Jailton Almeida personally has a higher ceiling at light heavyweight because he's actually quite big for the weight class. But he's fighting at heavyweight. I don't know what he wants, like, if he doesn't like cutting weight. But even then, he still walks around at 215 pounds, and I'm sure the light heavyweights that walk around at much heavier than that. But I do think that he does beat Shamil Durakimov here. I'm going with a submission win. Shamil has been knocked out a few times recently, knocked out by Sergey. I believe he got knocked out by Chris Dalkaus, and he got knocked out by Curtis Blade, so it was 3 years ago. Yeah, Jailton Almeida, I think he's going to try and use his wrestling against Shamil, which may not work, because Shamil does have pretty good grappling himself and wrestling, but I don't think that's what he's going to try and do. Shamil was pretty dangerous on the feet as well. I know he got knocked out by Sergey Pavlovich, but he did last like 3 minutes, and no other opponent of Sergey Pavlovich has lasted that long recently. Chris Dalkaus as well, he was landing some pretty good shots on Chris Dalkaus, but we're talking about a plus 650 favorite, underdog, sorry, to a minus 1,000 favorite here. I don't agree with the odds. I know Jailton Almeida is absolutely insane. He needs to make a decision though. Are you fighting at light heavyweight or are you fighting at heavyweight? In my opinion, I like him at light heavyweight. Yeah, I just think he's so much better off at light heavyweight. Unless he's going to commit to heavyweight and weigh in at like 230, 240 pounds, I think he would just be better off fighting at 205, to be honest. The next one is Terence McKinney versus Ismail Bonfim, a fight which I've got an interesting read on and an interesting take, because I am actually going to be picking Ismail Bonfim to win this fight by decision. Terence McKinney, he hasn't shown the greatest cardio in the past. I'm sure it's definitely something that he's working on, and he is a very powerful guy. There's a very good chance he just knocks out Ismail Bonfim and runs forward and knocks him out. There's a very good chance he uses very good wrestling as well in this matchup, but Ismail Bonfim's kind of got a counter to everything that Terence McKinney brings, in my opinion. Ismail Bonfim is a very good boxer. We're talking about a multiple-time Brazilian national champion boxer here in Ismail. We're talking about a guy with a very good, I think it's like 14-2 amateur record, 4-1 professional record on boxing. We're talking about a guy that just fought on Dana White's Contender Series and beat Nariman Abasov, who was 28-3 and had wins over opponents with the records of 30-4 and 40-6. Only a couple of months ago, and he looked really good in that fight, defended every takedown, and just pieced him up on the feet using his superior boxing, and he's beaten good guys as well in the past. I just think Ismail Bonfim, I think he's going to beat Terence McKinney, and the thing about Terence McKinney as well in this fight, I just think that he's underrating Ismail Bonfim, like the way that he's acting in interviews, the way he's acting on social media. I think he's really underrating Ismail Bonfim, and I think Ismail Bonfim is just going to beat him by decision. I think he's even odds actually at the moment, about minus 115 or so. McKinney's a slight favourite on some books, slight underdog on some books, so keep your eye out on that. But I am going to be going with Ismail Bonfim to win by decision in this matchup. So yeah, I do like it. Let me know what you think in the comments of that fight, though. Let me know what you think about the comments about the Luan Lasorda fight against Cody Stamen. That's a big underdog for me to pick, but I believe in it. Shogun Hua versus Ihor Pateria. I've given my opinion on this fight, I think, twice now. So Shogun Hua, right? He's 41 years old. This is his retirement fight. Why not like an Alexander Gustafsson rematch? Why not like a trilogy with Ovin St. Preux, because they did have a pretty competitive fight last time. Ovin St. Preux's a pretty old guy himself. Why not re-sign Jan Vellante for a rematch? Why not like what's going on? Like, what is happening, man? Like, so Shogun Hua is like, I'm gonna retire, and the UFC is like, oh, okay. Here's 28-year-old Ihor Pateria, who runs forward, throws 110% in his shots, and literally strikes like Juliana Pena, except Juliana Pena maybe spent about 10 years training boxing, and just runs forward, swinging for the fences, 110% striking. He's trying to knock you out. He's going crazy. He's running forward. Watch his fight against Lucas Sadolski. You know exactly what I'm talking about. He's got almost no technique whatsoever. He just runs forward and he's just throwing hooks and overhands. He's just throwing hooks. And he's going to do that Shogun Hua. He's just going to run forward in the first round. He's going to try and knock out Shogun Hua. And I think he does knock out Shogun Hua. And it's going to be really sad because it's going to be like, so this is how like we end Shogun Hua's career against a 26-year-old guy that just throws caution to the wind. Iwa Patricio is about a minus 250 favorite or so, I believe. Yeah, minus 225 to plus 175. Like, where is maybe like the Alexander Gustafsson rematch? Like, where is the trilogy with Ovin St. Preux? That's a much, much, much more suitable retirement fight than a 26-year-old Iwa Patricio. Next fight, Josiane Nunes versus Zero Fan. UFC were very, very kind to give us a break in the action. So when this happens, I'll probably go and grab some food or something. I think I'll probably be watching this fight with friends. So I'll invite a few friends around, and when this fight comes around, I believe it will probably be around like 1 p.m. on Sunday, my time, I think. So I'll be like, alright boys, just go and get some KFC or something like that. So yeah, Josiane Nunes versus Zero Fan. It's a woman's 145 pounds, so you know what that means. The fight literally means nothing and does nothing because there is no women's 145 pound division. I don't know why they're still booking fights at women's 145. Just cut down to 135 pounds, Josiane Nunes. You are 5'2". Zero Fan hasn't fought for 3 years. How can I trust what Zero Fan's going to look like? She's a pretty good kickboxer to her credit, but she hasn't fought for 3 years, and she's 36 years old. So you got to go Josiane Nunes. I think she's just going to land the hardest strikes in this matchup. She might even get a knockout. She's a massive favorite. So Zero Fan potentially is a very live underdog, but I just think that Josiane Nunes wins. And so does most Tavol, 96%. That's pretty crazy. But to be honest with you guys, during this fight, I'll probably just be going getting food for the main card. Not going to lie. Gabriel Bonfin versus Munir Laziz. I think this is a potential showcase spot for Gabriel Bonfin. Or I think this is what they're trying to do here. I think my computer's really lagging out now, so I'm really sorry. But yeah, Gabriel Bonfin versus Munir Laziz. I think Gabriel Bonfin wins, and I think they've put him in this position to look good. The featured prelim of a massive pay-per-view in Brazil. I think they're trying to build up Bonfin's name. Both Bonfin brothers as well, because they literally just gave Ismail Bonfin Terence McKinney to start with, in a fight which he potentially could win and make a big name for himself if he does beat Terence McKinney. But Gabriel Bonfin, 13-0. Lots of submissions. He's a very good boxer as well. I do believe he's a championship boxer in Brazil as well, just like his brother. Except this guy's got really good jiu-jitsu as well. His brother does have good jiu-jitsu, but Bonfin's grappling is just another level in my opinion. He's 25 years old. He's very good. In my opinion, the better of the two Bonfin brothers. He beat Trey Waters. Trey Waters took that fight on very short notice, but I think he's like 6'3" or 6'4" or something crazy. It was massive. And Trey Waters had him in a guillotine, and Bonfin turned the position that he was in when he was in the guillotine to a Von Flute choke, which is very impressive. Very, very fun submission to look at if you wanted to rewatch that fight. But he's beaten good guys on the regional scene. And Munir Laziz, I love telling Munir Laziz come up story, man. So Dana White's son was hosting a party. I believe it was a birthday party. And he invited some friends, and one of those friends showed up and went over to Dana White and showed Dana White some highlights from Munir Laziz. And Dana White, obviously, and his team looked into Munir Laziz, and they signed him. So that was a pretty cool come-up story, really. So shout out to Dana White's son's friend for getting Munir Laziz into the UFC. But Munir Laziz, I think he might have a very slight striking advantage in this matchup because he is a very good kickboxer. He did just beat Angelusa, who's very tough, 7 months ago, and looks pretty good in that fight. But I do think Bonfin gets the fight to the mat at some point and does throw up a submission, and I do think he gets it as well because he's just such a good grappler. 13-0 right now, man. Like they're gonna build this guy up. They're gonna build up Gabriel Bonfin if he can beat Munir Laziz. Like this isn't an easy fight for sure. But if you can get past Munir Laziz, they're gonna be promoting Bonfin. And Bonfin's like a minus 180 or so favorite. Laziz is about plus 140, plus 150 or so. So pretty good fight for. I think Bonfin does win it too. Now we're on the main card. Now we're on the bit that you're paying for. In my opinion, if we're going to start charging $80 for a pay-per-view, let's do 6 fight main cards. Like, let's get a little bit more fights for your money, because 5 fights for $80 is not very cheap, is it? You know what I mean? Like, I live in New Zealand, so the pay-per-view price isn't as expensive. It is actually much cheaper in New Zealand. But, still, like, if we're gonna charge people $80 for a pay-per-view, let's do six fights. Like, let's just get more content for what you're paying for. Or even let's do, like, I might make a whole separate video on this. Like, let's do some post-limbs, like fights that are after the whole main card. I don't know if you guys have heard of post-limbs, but some events do them. But anyway, Gilbert Burns versus Neil Magny. 20-5 versus 27-9. I don't know why I read the records, but I do think Gilbert Burns wins. Gilbert Burns is a very big favorite. I think he's about minus 400 or so in the matchup. I understand, like, we are talking about Gilbert Burns here, and you've got to understand what Gilbert Burns has done recently. He had a very competitive fight with Khamzat Chimaev, which will age very well. I believe he knocked down Kamaru Usman and potentially could have knocked him out if he just played the fight a little bit smarter, because he knocked down Usman and then just stood there and, like, kicked his legs and let him recover. If he walked back up and Usman was still a little bit rocked, maybe he could have capitalized on that. So he had a pretty competitive fight. Yeah, he had a competitive fight with Usman before he got knocked out. Then he beat Stephen Thompson, which has aged well. Had a competitive fight with Khamzat Chimaev, but hasn't fought since. And Neil Magny, man, I believe he's, like, in a way stepping in for Masvidal, because Gilbert Burns was meant to fight Jorge Masvidal. Jorge Masvidal didn't take the fight for some reason. Don't really know why. Don't know what Masvidal's up to. Maybe he's waiting for the McGregor fight. I don't know. But, yeah, Neil Magny. Neil Magny's a legendary dude. Like, he called out Khamzat Chimaev, never got that fight. Fought, apologies. He fought Shavkat Rakhmonov when no one really wanted to fight him. And, then he fought D-Rod, Daniel Rodriguez, after that, and did beat him. But, I think if Neil Magny wins this fight, he has to keep Gilbert Burns at range and keep him at the end of his jabs and kicks, because we're talking about a 6'3" guy versus 5'10", 80-inch reach to 71-inch reach. Neil Magny's going to have to use his range on the feet, but Gilbert Burns isn't going to allow that. Gilbert Burns is going to run forward and do his, like, little brawling, and he's going to try and lock up a sub. He's going to try and get takedowns and lock up a sub with Neil Magny. Gilbert Burns hasn't got a submission since 2019, I don't think, and I think he's only got 3 submissions since 2015. But I'm almost leaning Burns submission, which is just a weird pick in my opinion. But I think Magny's gonna lose, but I think he's gonna have a good showing, so I'm gonna be going with Burns. But I don't know about a prop, because I could easily see Burns winning by decision. I could see Burns getting a KO, and I could see Burns winning by submission. So I'm gonna be safe. I'll go with Burns by decision in this matchup. Jessica Andrade versus Lauren Murphy. I've got Jessica Andrade by KO in the very first round. Jessica Andrade, she's just a little powerhouse, man. She's 5'1". She runs forward. She's got power for days. She submitted Amanda Lemos by standing arm triangle choke, which was crazy. And then she knocked out, TKO'd Cynthia Calvillo. And I lost to Shevchenko, but that happens. You know what I mean? Knocked out, yeah, Caitlin Chikagi in like 40 seconds or something. I think that Andrade does win this fight by first round KO as well. I think Lauren Murphy's luck is over. I think her days of winning decisions that should have gone to her opponent are over. And she also did out-wrestle Miesha Tate, which was absolutely crazy to me, though, because Miesha Tate has always been touted as this insane wrestler. She wrestled with the boys in high school, you know what I mean? And she's just a good wrestler. And then Miesha Tate just goes out there and gets out-wrestled by Lauren Murphy and spoils Tate's debut at 125. But I've got Andrade by KO. I think she gets it done in the first. I think Andrade is like a minus 250 favorite. She's minus 500. I'm very wrong. Jeez, that's pretty wide odds, isn't it? Wow, I just think that Andrade just KOs her at some point, to be honest. The featured fight of the night, Paul Craig versus Johnny Walker. I've got to go with Johnny Walker in the matchup. Johnny Walker's a pretty sizable favorite, a bigger favorite than I would expect him to be. He's about minus 170, minus 180 or so. Paul Craig is about plus 140, plus 150-ish there, or abouts. I've got Johnny Walker. I just don't think Paul Craig can strike with Johnny Walker, and Paul Craig, all he has is jiu-jitsu, but the thing is he knows that, so all he tries to do is use his jiu-jitsu in fights. No matter how he can get the fight to the ground, he'll do it. He was literally flopping on his back against Volkan Oezdemir while Volkan Oezdemir was beating him up on the feet, but according to Bisping, with his one eye, he thought that Paul Craig was beating Volkan on the feet. I think my camera just lagged out really badly then, so hopefully this part of the video is not too bad. But Bisping was like, he's outstriking the striker. He's outstriking the striker. And I was like, what? Like, Volkan, like, this thing's commentary during that fight was shockingly bad. Volkan Oezdemir beat Paul Craig in every round, and Bisping thought he won. I was like, what? But anyway, Paul Craig, he's not a good striker. but he's good jiu-jitsu. He loses the fight until he gets a submission, or at least that's what he does recently. Kind of did it, I guess, in a way against Jamal Hill. Did it against Nikita Krylov for sure. He's almost knocked out on the ground, but ground and pound just throws up a submission and gets it. Absolutely insane stuff, but I don't think he can strike with Walker. I think Walker is going to knock him out on the feet. But if Walker tries to play around on the ground with Paul Craig, I think he's in big trouble. Paul Craig just kind of seems like a guy that he's 35 years old. His striking just isn't that great. I just can't see him making rapid improvements at this point in his career. I think he should stick with what he knows, which is the grappling, which he does. He does have good fight IQ in that way, in my opinion. He does use the grappling, but I do think that Walker does win by KO, and so does 50% or so of the typology. Yeah, it really is Craig by sub or Walker by KO. I can't disagree with that, so I do believe. And that one. Now, Davison Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno. The odds haven't been added to the UFC 283 part of best fight odds, but I do believe Figueiredo is a very, very slight favorite. Like, we're talking like minus 110 to minus 103 or something like that. I've got to go with Figueiredo, though. This fight shouldn't be happening. It's just really holding up the whole division, really, and has done for what? Like a year now, a year and a bit, year and 6 months, 2 years. 2 years. I lied to you guys about my scar my scar with yeah, I lied to you guys. I'm sorry. I lied to you guys about my scar. My scar's 2 years old. So you're telling me that Gregory Rodriguez's 3-month-old stitches has healed? I mean, once again, it's different. Like my neck is stapled together, not stitched, but same thing, I guess. Yeah, sorry about that lie. But anyway, Davison Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno. I do think Figueiredo's going to find it, man. I think he's going to find the big shots. I think he's going to knock down Moreno, and I think he's going to finish him as well. I think I'm going to Figueiredo by KO in this matchup. He's been focused on Moreno for 2 years. So is Moreno, to be fair, on Figueiredo. And Moreno has been more active. He fought in the meantime. He fought Kai Kara France. A pretty competitive fight, to be fair, but he did end up winning it. But I do think Figueiredo finds it, man. Figueiredo's a beast. My camera's really hating me right now, but I'm just going to have to live with it. Yeah. Also, Brandon Moreno's had that problem with Glory MMA. I don't know where he is. Maybe he's at Factory X Muay Thai. I'm not too sure. But I do think Figueiredo gets him, man. I think Figueiredo beats him. So, Figueiredo by KO is the pick. I think he gets it done. Moreno, I just believe in Figueiredo more. Like, this fight shouldn't even be happening as well, because Figueiredo was robbed in the first fight. Figueiredo should have been given the 5th round, but 2 judges gave Moreno the 5th round. Like, oh my goodness. Like, Figueiredo was robbed, man. He was robbed pretty badly too. But yeah, anyway. Glover Teixeira versus Jamal Hill. Glover Teixeira, I believe, is an underdog, which is interesting, and I am picking him to win this matchup. We're talking about Jamal Hill, who was just taken down 4 times by Thiago Santos 3 months ago. So you're telling me that Jamal Hill has practices wrestling and takedown defense to defend against Glover Teixeira in 3 months? Actually, less than that, because this fight was announced like 3 or 4 weeks ago. You're telling me that Jamal Hill has practices takedown defense enough to defend the Glover Teixeira takedowns? I don't think so. I think Glover Teixeira is going to take him down and submit him in the 1st or 2nd round. I think there's a very good chance that Jamal just knocks him out, though, because Glover Teixeira at this point is 43, and he is very slow. He's very, very slow. In the Yuri fight, I just find the Yuri fight, I don't know if everyone calls it the fight of the year, and it was a banger fight. I just find it hard to watch, because every time I watch it, I'm like, man, Glover's so slow. I can't believe Yuri was losing. It just really frustrates me. But it's Jamal Hill. I just don't think he's got the takedown defense to defend the takedowns of Glover Teixeira. And even then, Glover is dangerous on the feet, but he's very slow. He's very slow. Which does give Jamal Hill a lot of openings to find the KO, but I just don't see it, man. I do think Glover Teixeira is going to get in on those wrestling, man. He's going to take down Jamal Hill, and he's going to use that grappling. He's going to get a submission at some point. Yuri was doing very good in the grappling against Glover. I just don't see Jamal doing the same thing. I think he's going to get subbed. So give me Teixeira by submission. But if Teixeira wins the belt and then retires, oh my goodness, we have a problem on our hands. That's for sure. And then even then, who does Glover defend against? Does Glover just wait until the end of the year to defend against Yuri? Or, do you just give Ankalaev the title shot? Because that seems to be the narrative, even though in my eyes. It was a draw. I thought Jan won the first, second, and third rounds. And then obviously there was 10-8 in the fifth, and then in the fourth round, obviously Ankalaev won. But I think Ankalaev would beat Jan in a rematch, but you can't really just give someone a title shot off a draw, you know what I mean? But there's no one else really. I don't know what the go is, but let's leave it there. So yeah, with half an hour video again. Hopefully you guys don't mind the length. It is a 15 fight card, so you got to kind of understand the length there. I'm looking forward to it. I'm hyped as for this card, as well as John Jones and Usman's fight and all that being announced. I'm like, yeah, I'm fizzing to go, boys. I'm fizzing. I'm ready. I'm so excited. So yeah, I'm really excited about this. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know. Subscribe, like, comment, all that sort of thing, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.